The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. The camp of a presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos questioned the reported suspension of 300 Twitter accounts identifying the Marcoses supporter. Now, one political analyst supports Vice President Leni Robredo's stand that China must recognize the arbitral ruling of the West Philippine Sea before we could engage into a joint exploration. In an interview with The Big Story, Professor Dindo Manhit said that the arbitral victory is very critical before opening any discussion on joint exploration. However, Manhit said that a joint exploration is not needed and China has to respect the country's sovereign rights.
What I'd like to add more is the idea that we don't need joint exploration. What we need is countries to respect our territorial integrity and work on contracting out and exploring within the bounds of the Philippine Constitution, which is supported by our arbitral victory as accepted by international law.
Meanwhile, the National Bureau of Investigation arrested 5 suspects in the highly controversial BDO cyber hacking incident in December. NBI also debunked speculations of an inside job. Marlene Alcaide has the story.
Back in December, some 700 BDO clients fell prey to a hacking incident, with huge amounts transferred to a certain Mark Nagoyo. Mark Nagoyo, as it turns out, is a group. One of its members, known as alias Alex, surrendered after realizing the extent of the racket.
Hindi ko po kasi ma-attempt po yung mga nababasa ko po sa online po. Nung mga araw po na ginawa ko po yung paggawa ko ng SMS blast po. Hindi ko po kasi po alam na ganun po karami yung mabibiktima po. Kaya po nag-decide po ako na pumunta po mismo sa video. Alam ko po yung pangyayari po sa Mark Nagoyo.
This became the NBI's key to arresting the other involved in the hacking incident, including 2 Nigerian nationals who were nabbed in Pampanga. The 2 were identified as alias Daddy Champ and Peter Nwadi.
Nagtulong-tulong ho in providing the details and we followed the money trail. It just so happened that we identified one key player in their group who knows or who participates doon sa full process ng scheme. Responsible siya in procuring yung mga fake documents, applying for a bank, and madami siyang role dun sa entire group. That's why we were able to follow yung mga members.
3 more Filipinos were arrested, including alleged mastermind Jerome Taupa, Ronaldin Panaligan, and alias X-Men Clay Revillosa. Alias X-Men admits to providing the group with the database of the victims.
Ang trabaho ko lang po is mag-dump. Ine-extract po ang database. Nakapagbenta ako ng mailis kulang-kulang 800,000 sa mga nagpipm sa akin.
NBI, for their part, clarifies that none of the hackers colluded with the bank employee. They also said that the agency is currently coordinating with the bank to prevent incidents like this in the future.
Wala talagang internal employees or internal personnel na involved sa banking institution in providing yung mga leads and yung mga depositors' details. Maingat kasi yung mga grupo na yan, sir, and it will be very, very risky on their part.
The 5 suspects were charged for violation of the Cybercrime Prevention Act. They also vowed to cooperate with the NBI for the investigation. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Circulating back to our top story, the camp of presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos questioned the reported suspension of 300 Twitter accounts identifying the Marcoses or with Marcoses supporter base. Marcos Jr.'s spokesman, attorney Vic Rodriguez, said that there is no certainty that all of the accounts belong to the supporters of Bongbong Marcos. He also noted that the information from a Twitter spokesperson did not mention any account in Marcos network or the exact number of accounts suspended. This as social media platform Twitter reviewed the accounts and hashtags reported by online news network Rappler for their supposed propaganda work. Now, several gay men have complained about the current policy of the health department on blood donation, which they are tagging as discriminatory. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro has the report.
The relationship between Angelo Pineda and Marilyn Pambuena is thicker than blood. So when Marilyn needed blood transfusions because of chronic kidney failure, Angelo volunteered. But the hospital rejected him for the simple reason that he has a same-sex partner. Angelo is gay.
The only question I was asked, do I have a domestic partner? I said yes. Tapos, are we participating in safe sex? Siyempre, di ba? And then, sabi niya, nakapagpa-test ka na ba ng dugo? Sabi ko, yes, for HIV, negative. Sabi nila, I'm sorry but we cannot accommodate you kasi policy ng ospital na hindi kami pwedeng tumanggap ng mga blood donors na gay men.
The blood bank of Margarito A. Duavit Memorial Hospital, which rejected Angelo's donation, acknowledges they have a policy to reject men who have sex with men as blood donors.
Usually pagka ganyan, may siyempre high risk sila sa ganung dinidinay na namin yung ganyan kasi yung dugo nila talagang prone sa dun sa mga sakit na ganon.
Amonalo is referring to sexually transmitted diseases such as hepatitis, malaria, syphilis, and HIV. But it turns out this is also the policy of the health department.
Male who have had sexual contact with another male even once and even if using condom. So yun yung mga criterias na or questions na high risk considered as high-risk individual na kailangan i-defer muna natin.
Marites Estrella of the National Voluntary Blood Services Program said, this applies to men who have had sex with men, even if the contact was more than 10 years ago, and even if they used protection and tested negative for HIV. It is not discrimination, Estrella says, but merely a precautionary measure to ensure the safety of the blood.
Your purpose of donating blood is to save lives, okay? So if you want to save lives, you don't do harm to any of our patients.
But Dr. Cristina Lupta, a director of the Philippine Red Cross, told One News this should not be the case. Sexual preference is not a risk factor, neither is it an indicator of promiscuity. Besides, heterosexual men and women can just as easily contract sexually transmitted diseases. Unfortunately, gay men have long been pinned with a stereotype.
Sila yung may high risk ng makakuha ng sexually transmitted disease, mga HIV, mga hepatitis. Yung mga may multiple partner, usually sila yung nakakakuha ng mga ganung sakit eh.
For its part, the Philippine National Red Cross stresses that so long as the donor is tested and the blood is properly screened, then anyone should be allowed to donate regardless of sexual preference. Unfortunately, there are just some misconceptions that take longer to change.
I just went there to save a life. Akala ko ang discrimination nasa kalsada lang pati pala sa mga ospital.
For Angelo and Marilyn, this experience is a reminder that medical technology may have grown by leaps and bounds, but thinking may have gotten left behind.
We would still go a long way. Madami pa tayong pagdadaanan before getting there. But eventually, we will get there.
Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, we are One News.
Hong Kong is struggling to attract international bankers and traders due to the strict zero COVID policies in the city. More details in this Bloomberg Markets Asia.
Tell us in a nutshell what's happening.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Basically, many headhunters we've been speaking to are telling us they can only recruit candidates who are already in Hong Kong, and they're struggling to attract global talent or talent from outside the island, simply because people are, as you said, generally frustrated with a whole bunch of things that are taking place there. They're frustrated with the city's strict zero COVID policies. They're abandoning the city where generally low taxes, ease of travel, which is crucial to people working in banking, top-class schools for their families, and a vibrant nightlife. Even then, these things proved a potent lure for a lot of people who work in the financial services industries, but given a lot of these factors no longer exist, they're all either looking to move or they're saying, we're going to stay here, but then at some stage we're going to go back to wherever they came from. And we're already seeing this in the data. Visas for financial services workers in Hong Kong basically halved from 2018 to 2020 and probably declined further last year, according to government data.
Amberine, Singapore will receive all these bankers with open arms. The thing really is, a lot is at stake for Hong Kong in particular, right? I mean, it is a financial hub for the likes of Goldman, as well as HSBC, hundreds of thousands of financial jobs at stake as well.
Yes, exactly. As you say, it is a gateway to many parts of Asia, in particular, I guess, China. It's a gateway bridge to capital to and from China. Hong Kong has a huge number of financial services workers and jobs, around 273,000. It has long been the Asian hub for banking giants such as HSBC and Goldman and a whole bunch of Wall Street firms. And over the past decade or so, there have been many other funds and asset managers setting up shop there. And most importantly, it's also the largest U.S. dollar funding center after London and New York. And banking assets, I think, are equal to about 9 times Hong Kong's gross domestic product. So, it is a substantial loss of people and talent over the long term for Hong Kong as it continues.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch our news on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now, www.signalplay.com, and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.